Debra Indorato, RD, and food allergy blogger Keeley McGuire here to talk about nutritious and fun lunchboxes for children with food allergies. This webinar is offered by Kids with Food Allergies as part of its educational outreach program. I'm Linda Mitchell, Senior Vice President at the Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America, or AFA. Kids with Food Allergies is a division of AFA. I have the privilege of being your moderator this afternoon. I have a few housekeeping details to run through before we get started. First of all, today's webinar is made possible through a sponsorship by Mylan Specialty. We rely on donors and corporate partners like Mylan Specialty for the financial support that enables us to do educational programs for families. Next, please remember that this webinar is of a general nature only and is not medical advice or legal advice. You should consult your own physician for any medical advice you seek with regard to food allergies and any other medical condition. Today's webinar is being recorded, and later in today's webinar we will stop to give away some wonderful gifts from our corporate supporters, Sun Butter and Applecate. We also have a children's book giveaway by dietitian Amber DeVore. The recipients of these gifts will be picked randomly from those still in attendance later in the webinar. And when we end the webinar, you will see a survey, and we'd like your impressions of our webinar today so we can use that as to help us with future directions for future webinars. Guest presenters for all of our webinars are doing so as volunteers without compensation, and they also prepare their presentations on their own based upon the clinical evidence when applicable. On behalf of AFA and KFA, I'm grateful for Deb and Keeley to donate their time to be here with us to discuss nutrition and lunch. I know some of us are dealing with multiple food allergies and don't get much advice regarding how to keep our child's diets nutritionally adequate when important foods are removed from their diet, and lunch can always be one of those difficult times where we're trying to figure out how to make it versatile and fun, and so this is what this webinar is all about. So what I'd like to do is to introduce our speakers. I hope you've taken some of those polls that have been appearing while I've been talking. And so our first speaker is Debra Indorato. She's a nutrition advisor for kids with food allergies, and she's a registered dietitian at Approach Nutrition Food Allergy Management, LLC. Deb has served on the Adverse Reaction to Food Committee of the American Academy of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology from 1997 to 2011, and she's been on our medical advisory team and now our medical scientific council for the past 10 years. Keeley McGuire blogs at Allergy-Friendly Lunchboxes at KeeleyMcGuire.com and is the proud mother of Little Miss, her sous chef. Together they spend time in the kitchen creating, baking, and eating fun foods, and there are challenges to balancing motherhood, food allergies, and a full-time job, but Keeley manages so well and has time to do beautiful lunch boxes every day that she wants to share with you today. Her mission is making allergy-friendly foods fun. So before we begin the presentation, we want to mention that you may hear and see food ideas today that may not be safe for your particular list of allergens your child needs to avoid. However, there's almost always a way to adjust a recipe or meal to make it safe. If you need to help finding substitutions or coming up with ideas that are free of your child's allergens, we encourage you to log into our online community. It's free to join. We have a food and cooking forum where you can find personalized help. Just post a question there and our members and volunteers will help you. We are also accepting questions during today's webinar. Just type your questions into the question box, and at the end of the presentation, Deb and Keeley will answer questions live as time allows. So thank you for joining us here today, Deb and Keeley. I will unmute my microphone and I'll let you both get started.
Thanks, Linda.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. It's Deb here. And I'm going to review some of our quick polls and before we get started on all of the great information we have to share in our webinar today. How many children in your home have food allergies? And it looks like we have 82% of our listeners today have one child with food allergies, 15% have two, and 3% have three or more. And we all know when we get to that three or more, it can be very challenging not only to create meals and prepare meals and shop for our families, but also packing lunches, as we hope to help you with today. which allergens are you avoiding? So it looks like the winner is peanut or tree nut at 45%, 29% with milk, 13% with egg, and oh, we don't have any with wheat, and then 13% with others. That can be a variety of foods, maybe our top 8 allergens, but we know that it is possible to react to almost any food or combination of. So, you know, we'll hopefully get some of those questions at the end if someone needs help with those. What are your biggest challenges in sending lunch? It looks like sending meals children want to eat. Well, I think we probably will have some great answers for you today. That was 43%, 24% finding creative ideas, and 32% ensuring nutritious meals. So I think we're right on target in meeting your needs today. And we have Keeley is starting first with her slides.
Thanks, Deb. Again, I want to thank everyone for being here and joining us today, and I hope we help give you some new and creative ideas for your lunch boxes. So one of the things I'm asked so often is, where do I get my ideas, or how do I have time for that? That's probably the biggest question I get. And when it comes to those lunches, one thing I like to do is pick a theme, and that's one great way to easily come up with creative ideas in a lunchbox. You know, it could be a favorite movie, a color theme, their favorite sport, or as you see here, even just picking a theme with an apple. And one easy way to incorporate those themes into lunches is by using cookie cutters or sandwich cutters. And by doing so, I'm able to create a big impact with little effort. It actually takes no more amount of time to put down a piece of bread and use a cookie cutter on it than it would to just cut the crust off with a knife. And my tip for using those cutters, because it's another question I get a lot, is to pre-slice those slices of bread with the cutter before you fill the sandwich. If you go to fill the sandwich with, let's say, a nut-free spread and jelly, and then try to slice it, you're going to have an ooey gooey mess. So just try slicing those bread slices first and then filling the sandwiches so you get a nice clean cut. Some other ways to keep things fun and get ideas is to use bright colors and shapes. And those will make the lunches more aesthetically pleasing to a picky eater. And I speak to this from experience because my own daughter, she started school just before the age of 2 with an ASD diagnosis. So not only did she have food allergies, but she had sensory disorder and was in occupational therapy as well. So that's how my lunch packing got started in this way. I was trying to find a good balance for her to eat new foods and then also make them fun for her with the things that she couldn't have at the time. Next slide.
Okay, just a few comments before I talk about bursting with color. You know, that slide with the apple theme was great, and all the different textures and things you noticed there. And you know, when we talk about the themes, one of the things that often parents are looking to do, especially if you want to reduce television time, is do creative activities with your children. And there are all kinds of cool challenges out there. You can find on the internet. Can you tell me background noise?
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of background noise.
Sounds like somebody's typing. Sorry about that. But there are all kinds of cool calendars out there, especially this time of the year with back to school and, you know, Christmas not that far away. You see calendar kiosks in the mall and so on. You know, picking a cool calendar or let your child make one, getting a dry erase board that has a calendar already on it. So you can have the child assist with picking out what themes they like and then have a day for a surprise theme. So you just put surprise on the calendar, and then that's up to mom and dad or whoever's packing the lunches to come up with a surprise theme. Keeley talked about cutting your slices of bread, which is a great idea. I used to do that for my kids when they were young, and I found some cookie presses with smiley faces in and Mickey Mouse and so on that they always enjoyed. Um, but if your child's not a bread eater and they're not milk allergic, you can also use those cookie cutters with slices of cheese or their favorite luncheon meat, or even take like a slice of watermelon and cut a shape out of it. I like some of the shape ideas because for the younger children, you can tie it into things that they're learning in school, especially like pre-K when they're starting to learn the shapes and the names of the shapes. And you can also use some of the natural shape of the food, like for grapes, berries, cherry tomatoes, or you can even cut food in chunks for squares and triangles and things like that. So that's kind of fun. So when we're talking about bursting with color, and this is a great picture here because we see all the great colors of the fruits and vegetables, but I wanted to ask all of you, did you ever see a really boring meal? And I'll give you an example. Something like just baked fish and rice and yellow squash, and even though the peel is yellow, the inside of the squash is white. Well, I wouldn't find that very appetizing, and I'm sure you wouldn't. And when we're talking with about young children who need all kinds of things that are fun and that they can say, wow, look at what mom packed for me, we really want to look at some of the colors. And again, tying into what they're learning in school. If it's younger children learning colors, or older children that might have some art projects in school, let's tie in some of those colors. Because if we don't, they might find lunches very boring. And one of the poll questions was about, one of the answers was finding things that the children will eat. And so think about what's been packed in the past. Not that you're doing a bad job, but now we can make it even more creative and add things for the children. So alternating the colors with days. Maybe one day do red and bring in all those good berries and tomatoes and whatever's in season. Maybe another day can be a blue or a purple day with berries and grapes, and we see purple cabbage there. And it may not be something that you have ever offered your child, but certainly cabbage is a good source of some of your great nutrients, and it might not be bad to add to a salad for your children. If you want to use yellow, squash, pineapple, green, your green grapes, spinach, cucumbers, even avocados sometimes, or olives. Olives are a healthy fat, so some children do like olives, but that's not something we might always think about packing in their lunch, and they might have some fun with that. And, of course, we can't forget orange and oranges, peaches, and we see a lot of orange color in that slide. So all these things are good sources of nutrients, especially vitamins A and C, which we really like to promote for a healthy immune system, and especially now that summer is over and we're probably heading into cold and flu season, and even helping keep the mucous membranes in good shape for fighting off some of those allergens that we inhale in the fall. Next slide, please. Keeley? Did we lose Keeley?
Keeley, can you unmute yourself? We can't hear you. Deb, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Yeah,
Oh, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now, but we didn't hear anything you may have said.
No, the system, I've lost all connection to the webinar, so I apologize. I just dialed in on my phone because it had whatever issues. I apologize. It just locked me out of it. So I know Linda was having some issues, and I think it just got me too. So
Yeah, I think there might be some GoToWebinar connectivity issues right now, so I apologize for that. But if
I
you could
apologize too because I'm sitting here trying to make it
fault.
work. So
So I don't know where you're going to go with this slide, but we didn't hear any of it if you did start to talk.
Nope, that's fine. I know which slide we're on, and I obviously have, even though I lost the webinar on my computer, I have the draft on my computer, so I'll just work from that. So again, I apologize, everybody, because I've lost the connection. So basically, another idea that's very popular and is doing DIY Lunchables. Lunchables are one of those iconic lunch items that kids pack for their lunches, and I know my daughter would always come home and wanted those items like her friends had at school. But obviously with her food allergies and some of the things she avoids, that wasn't going to happen. So one of the things we like to do is make our own DIY Lunchables packed at home. And it's not only great because we can cater them to her needs, but they're also healthier because they have less preservatives. You know, I know she's getting better grains and real nutrients as opposed to some of the items that are in the boxed kind at the stores. So a great way to have them included is to offer these at home, and you can do that by doing the meat and cheese cracker stackers. You can take flatbread or take tortillas and make your own cutouts for DIY mini pizzas. I have a few of those on my website if you want to look those up. You could even do a build your own sub sandwich. Walking tacos are also a fun option by, you know, packing a snack-sized bag of chips that they're able to have and then the taco meat so they can kind of put it together themselves and create their own at lunchtime. They can also do, even as I have pictured here, some sunflower seed bread and jelly with DIY crackers. And the reason why this is so great, not only does it help them feel included, but finger foods are just a great fun way for kids to be creative and interactive with their lunch. I often find that whenever I have something for my daughter that is littler bites or something that she can put together herself, it's more appealing to her. She likes to have that ownership and create fun things and then show her friends at lunch that are sitting with her, and it just makes it more appealing. And that's the same that goes with even the fruits and vegetables, as you see in the picture. She has watermelon balls as opposed to just slices, and that's just something, again, a nice change up in the way that we're packing her fruit, but then she enjoys just popping them in her mouth and being able to enjoy them that way when they're littler bites. Next slide.
Okay, and it may sound like I'm pushing lots of fruits and vegetables this time around, and I am, as I mentioned before, because of the great nutrients that are going to be helpful as we get through the fall and winter months with allergies and colds and flu season. But one of the other reasons I wanted to focus on this today is some of the more recent research shows that 56% of primary and 80% of secondary school children do not eat the recommended daily amount of vegetables and even sometimes fruits. And I know myself, you know, I don't always pick up a piece of fresh fruit, but if somebody cuts fresh fruit for me in a salad, I can eat bowls and bowls of it. So, you know, one of the key things to having it is having it there and having it available for the children at all times, whether you keep it cut up in the refrigerator or a bowl of fruit on the counter for when they come in from school, or even to pick from when you're packing lunches the night before. And I know keeping it cut up in the refrigerator in little containers will tie in with the DIY creating the lunch, because you can have the different containers and they can pick and choose while they're making their DIY Lunchables. And I know, you know, if you take your children grocery shopping, a lot of times they see all these things that are geared to kids and the Lunchables, and they've seen their friends at school. But the thing I like to tell parents is that, you know, when you're making your own and you have the time to do that, if you've ever looked at the labels on some of these things and seen the additives, preservatives, colors, and all the things that, you know, help to make the food look as it is and stay fresh in those for a long period of time, you know, some of the names of those things are kind of scary. So with everybody's focus on good health and avoiding a lot of those things, it's certainly good to try to make your own and keep things as simple as possible. So, you know, I'm into doing a lot of neat things with kids, and, you know, kids like charts. They're motivational for them. So you can also take a calendar or make a chart and rotate your fruits and vegetables and what you're going to have. Have the children help prepare the grocery list for grocery shopping and include all the different fruits and vegetables. Another activity is, you know, if they make a list of the ones they like and sort them and help with the planning, or if there's a farmer's market near you, go to a farmer's market and, you know, try to pick one or more new ones. If there are stores like Whole Foods or Trader Joe's that have some different things, you know, encourage your children to pick something different, you know, maybe a piece of ugly fruit or star fruit. And I know I have a dietitian friend who's Peruvian and has written several books, and he's trying to get pitchu berries from Peru over in a lot of the stores, and I think he was successful in getting them in some of the Whole Foods, and they are just a jam-packed piece of fruit with lots of great nutrients in. So, you know, look for some of those different things with children. Maybe Google some of them and learn a little bit more about them. You know, a lot of parents ask, well, what if I can't get fresh fruits and vegetables, or what if I'm living where, you know, they're really not good if they're shipped in, or they're not in season in our area. Although fresh is best, canned and frozen may be easier sometimes, or maybe lending more to getting those fruits and vegetables into your children's daily diet. So it doesn't mean that because we're promoting fresh, that canned and frozen are bad. Just look what's in them. If you're getting frozen, look to see if they're just naturally frozen or if a sugar syrup has been added. The same with the canned and some of these little fruit packs that are sometimes convenient for lunches. Try to get those that are packed in juice or in their own syrup rather than, or their own juice or water, rather than something that's packed in a heavier syrup. When we're looking at the different age groups of children, everybody needs different amounts of foods based on their age, their activity. Those that are more active obviously need more calories, but since we're focusing on fruits and vegetables, someone in the, you know, nursery, pre-K, maybe 2 to 6 years old, should have approximately 3 vegetable servings and 2 fruit servings a day. Some of the information we see, you know, on some of the sites addressing nutrition will say for good health, everybody needs 5 to 9 servings a day of fruits and vegetables. Older teens need 4 vegetables and 3 fruits. You know, most of the recommendations sometimes will sort it out by boys and girls, with boys needing a little bit more, and certainly any child that is very active, especially older children and teens, would you know, definitely be up in that 9 range. And certainly we want to eat fruit rather than drink it, if possible, because any child that might have a tendency to put on extra weight or gain weight, or if there's a history of weight issues in the family, those liquid calories and juices can add up very quickly. So we want to encourage them to eat fresh fruit, and actually the mechanism of chewing can be a lot more satisfying than guzzling down a large glass of juice. And I encourage you to look at some of the government websites, the USDA. Some of them you'll still see some of the old food guide pyramid recommendations on, which is fine. It's still a good guideline for eating. But now the most recent recommendations are using something called My Plate, and they have some sites geared to My Plate. So take a look at some of those, and it'll keep you on the right track for providing your children with what they need. Next slide for Keeley, please.
So another great way to come up with ideas for lunches is by utilizing leftovers. I actually packed leftovers today for my daughter. So you can hop on my Facebook or Instagram page and you can find a photo of that lunch as well, just for added ideas. But the reason why leftovers are so great, especially for busy parents, I know with working and I travel often, so many nights, I get home late and lunch needs to be packed quickly and easy for the next day, because sometimes I'm just not in the mood to do it. And that's why leftovers are so great, because I can multitask by packing the lunches while I'm cleaning up supper from that night. So, as I'm putting everything away, and instead of just putting them in a traditional Tupperware container in the fridge, I'm packing it right away into lunches for my daughter or for myself. And that way it just speeds up the cleanup process and also gets those lunches done and out the door, because by packing them at night too, you're making it easier for the morning and you're not stressing and trying to do something quickly while you're in a rush out the door. And I'm also very fortunate my daughter is able to, they eat in their classrooms, they don't have a traditional cafeteria at her school. So she has a microwave that she's able to use to reheat items at lunch, but I realize that not everybody has that access. So for those that don't, I just recommend you get a good thermos that you can use as your best friend when sending leftovers for lunches. And this is really great if you're doing sauces or soups or chilies or even cooked meats like taco meats, and packing those for lunches for the next day. And just a tip with a thermos, because this is a question that even came up today with the lunch that I packed my daughter. There's a trick to using a thermos for lunches, and that is heating the core. So what you need to do is in the morning, so this is really more of a morning routine if you're doing a thermos, is pouring boiling water into your thermos and closing the lid. And then while you are having that sit and heating that core of the thermos, that's when you can reheat those leftovers in the morning, and so that they're nice and warm. So by the time those leftovers are warmed up, then you can pour the water out of the thermos and then pack the leftovers or whatever you need to keep warm inside the thermos. And by having that core heated first, that's what will ensure that your lunch items are still warm by lunchtime for your family. And with those leftovers, repurpose and reinvent. And that means, taking leftover chicken breast or leftover rotisserie chicken that you might have had for supper, and then turning it into, a quesadilla, turning it into chicken salad. You can toss it into a cold pasta, or sometimes I just cut it up into dices or slices and then give my daughter a side of barbecue sauce or honey mustard that she can dunk it right in her lunchbox. And again, it's that finger food that they love. So, and the same thing, like I mentioned a minute ago with the leftover taco meat, you can build your own tacos where you pack them in the shells and let them sort of put it together themselves, almost like a DIY Lunchable. Nachos, like I have pictured here, and even taking the meat and turning it into a chili mac or something like that, just to give it new purpose for lunch the next day. And then also even with noodles, taking leftover pasta noodles or spaghetti noodles and turning those into cold pasta salads. You could do baked spaghetti bird's nest, where you actually take the noodles and ring them around a muffin tin and put the meatball and sauce in the middle and then bake them. So it's almost like a baked spaghetti muffin. And I've even made my daughter spaghetti sandwiches before, where I've taken garlic cheese bread and then put the spaghetti noodles and sauce right in the middle, and she loved it just because it was crazy. So you can even find ideas like that on my blog as well. But it's just think outside the box when repurposing those leftovers and finding new and inventive ways to use them for lunch the next day. So it's not necessarily the same meal twice. Next slide for Deb, please.
Okay, and I tried to tie in with the leftovers for lunch and family dinners. That can make a great source of things for the next day. But I do want to comment on the quesadillas or anything that might be able to be made with a tortilla, such as wraps. Wraps can be really fun for children. And children with food allergies can even enjoy quesadillas and wraps if they're made with substitute foods. There are several varieties of wheat and gluten-free tortillas out there. Some are made with rice, which might be a little bit stiffer and don't roll as well, lend themselves more to a quesadilla-type sandwich. But then there are others that are more specifically gluten-free, not totally rice-based, that will roll nicely. And certainly the dairy-free cheeses, such as the Daya, is one of the better tasting ones that I know a lot of parents use, can be used in the quesadillas and tortillas. You know, I saw that Keeley had sun butter in one of her lunches, and you know, sometimes if you try to pack something that has a lot of little pieces, maybe if you're trying to do a veggie wrap or something like that, everything falls out, and that can be a little frustrating and difficult to eat. But things like the sun butter or possibly hummus, you know, something like a spread that it's a little bit thicker will help to hold those things in. The other thing that's nice is to slice them in kind of like a pinwheel shape that once you do the wrap and then slice them, they can pick up easily with their fingers. But anyway, when you're doing the family dinners, it's always good to prepare a little bit extra. Just don't overcook them if you're going to plan on heating them the next day. You don't want things mushy in their lunches, but that way you can take them right from the table and put them in containers, and like Keeley said, pack the lunch right away, and it's time saving. You know, things like if you have brown rice, that's something that could be enjoyed not only hot but cold as well, and added to veggie and fruit salads. Any beans left over from dinner can go into a salad. Mixing things like chicken, broccoli, and rice, and you know, it's great that Keeley's daughter has a microwave available. I don't know how many schools are doing that, but that's kind of cool. But, you know, one question I want to ask is, why do we eat certain foods hot and why do we eat certain foods cold? You know, and that's something it's good to do a taste test with your children, you know, even after dinner, you know, what tastes better hot and what tastes better cold. I know, being the mother of a grown son, when he was in his teenage years, I mean, he'd just walk up to the refrigerator, reach in and grab something with his hands, and it didn't matter if it was something that, you know, normally we would have hot for dinner, he'd eat it anyway. And I remember as a kid myself, I used to go in and, you know, grab cold rigatoni and just pop it in my mouth. So I think it's a matter of what we get accustomed to. You know, a lot of foods aren't, once they're cooked to a point where they're edible, certainly you wouldn't eat, you know, stiff, dry pasta, but, you know, we're conditioned to eat certain things hot and certain things cold, and there may be some things that we might normally eat that our children might be fine with cold for lunch. So, you know, think about some of those things, and that makes for some good family mealtime conversation as well. Next slide, please.
That's a great idea with the taste test, Deb, and it is surprising. That's a question I get a lot and comes up often. Oh, I can't believe your daughter eats that cold, and it might be even something as simple as pizza. And I'm an adult and I love cold pizza, so I think you're absolutely spot on with that comment, and that's a terrific idea to do a taste test. So just going to the next slide, when you're thinking outside the sandwich, and I know for our house, because we're also gluten-free, obviously don't want to fill a lunchbox with just gluten-free bread every single day. So we always try to come up with creative ideas to think outside the sandwich. And that goes for other families too, just depending on your allergens, because it can be difficult to find breads that might meet your needs as well. So one fun idea is, like I have pictured here with the apple witches, and it's taking slices of apples, and you can cut them into fun shapes, or just as I did here, I just cut a fun shape out of the core there in the middle with a flower, but you can fill them with nut-free spreads, granola, raisins, and a little honey to sweeten it up. You can even just put sandwich meat and cheese in there, because surprisingly that's delicious with apples. But it's just another fun alternative to the traditional sandwich. And it also gets in their fruit. So one of the popular questions I also get is regarding apples and how do I keep them from browning in the lunchbox. And really using any type of vitamin C juice. Some people use the powder. Some people I know swear by using sodas. We don't use soda in our house, so my go-to is I actually soak them in apple juice. And I love doing this because that way it doesn't change the flavor. I know some parents have commented by using a pineapple juice or a lemon juice that it can change the flavor of the apple. Those are also popular alternatives. You could even add a couple squirts of lemon juice to the apple juice if you're really worried, but having a good sharp knife, and then I just soak them in apple juice for a few minutes, pat them dry, and they are good to go. And I even have kept them in my fridge for a couple days ahead of time, and they've stayed nice. So just a quick tip for you on that as well. But some other additional ideas when it comes to thinking outside the sandwich. You know, you could do pancakes. Breakfast for lunch is always popular. We make puffins, which is baked pancake muffins. My daughter loves those because you can fill them with fruit, you can fill them with chocolate chips, whatever your child might like, but it's just a fun way to pack something besides a traditional sandwich again. And you could even use mini silver dollar shaped pancakes and use them like bread. Treat them as a sandwich and fill them with whatever you normally would a sandwich, and pack them that way. And again, muffins, bagels, bagel sandwiches, pizza bagels, even waffles. You can stuff waffles. You can pack them as is for dipping. I know I have a recipe on my site that's for cheesy pizza waffles, and that's just a fun alternative. You can even take a quesadilla and heat that up in your waffle iron, and it's another fun way just to cook it and present it to your kids in their lunchbox. Some other ones, sort of like the DIY Lunchables we already talked about, and just using crackers with a spreadable protein like chicken salad, sunflower seed bread, even a hummus. And I know my daughter loves that, and she loves making homemade hummus. So that's just another great idea to pack for lunch. And again, with the thermos, pastas or soups or leftovers. And then also you can do chicken nuggets and corn dog muffins. Again, I have allergy-friendly recipes on my site for those as well if you need references. But you can keep those warm until lunchtime, packed in a thermos as well. And also, as mentioned a minute ago, hummus with chips and veggies as well for dipping and dunking. Next slide for Deb, please.
Okay, so, you know, when we're packing, I mean, I think Keeley did a really great job with all of her lunches and included all the different food groups in there, and that's one thing we want to think about. You know, make sure each lunch contains, you know, a protein source, some type of meat or poultry, or, you know, if your child, you know, is okay with something like tuna fish. You know, if we do a dairy, or if they're milk allergic, a dairy substitute, beans or something made with beans, they're all great sources of protein. And then, you know, certainly children need calories for energy, and our carbohydrates are energy sources for the body, along with protein. They both have 4 calories per gram of protein or carbohydrate, but the carbohydrates would be your grains, your fruits, and your vegetables, and then trying to include some healthy fats. I know I referred to olives before as being a healthy fat, and then use some of the, you know, healthier oils or spreads when you're, you know, putting things together. And, you know, I know you're probably looking at some of those lunch boxes that Keeley presented, and your children all have different allergens, so maybe different than her daughters, but there's always a way of substituting. There are so many substitutes on the market today. My son, who's 27, was allergic to practically everything in the world as an infant, and it was very difficult 27 years ago to find good-tasting allergen-free foods without making your own, and really working through a lot of recipes, and there wasn't a whole lot available. But there are so many wonderful substitutes out there now, whether it's dairy or it's wheat, or you know, most people can get along without soy, although we do see a lot of soy in products, but a lot of times what we see is the soy lecithin, and the lecithin making process usually filters out the allergenic soy protein, unless it would be something that might use a cold processing, and then that would still maintain some of that soy protein. But I didn't see where, you know, that should be a concern, you know, when packing lunches at this point, because there are substitutes too that you can get that would be soy-free. The thing we might be worried about is some kind of a soybean protein or a soy flour, something like that. And that's where, if your child's using bread, you want to look at the ingredients in the bread label. So there are substitutes for everything out there. There are all kinds of different wheat-free breads available, different brands, and like Keeley said, you know, she did the variety with the apple sandwich because, you know, I always want to do the breads, and some of the gluten-free breads really need to be toasted. They fall apart, and they're not that great always for just a cold sandwich, so the apple slice sandwich idea is awesome. So just keep this slide in mind. I know it's a burger, but it was a good source of protein, showing how, you know, there are vegetables on there and lettuce and tomato and other things. And then we've got our fruit represented, and our grains and our vegetables there. And the bok choy is on there for a reason. It's just a different vegetable, and I mentioned trying different vegetables and fruits before. While we're talking about getting all these different foods in and variety and getting nutrients in, I just want to take a few seconds to mention supplements. You know, so many parents are always asking, you know, well, what kind of vitamin should I get for my child? And, you know, there are so many out there on the market. They're just shelves and shelves and brands and brands. And, you know, we really don't want to go supplement crazy. We want to check with your doctor or your child's pediatrician before adding any supplements, especially if they're on any prescription medication that the supplements might interact with. But, you know, we are not using supplements to just take a supplement. They should not replace food, so we really want to encourage the children to get a variety of foods in their diet. But if your child is allergic to so many foods that they can't get the nutrients they need, then supplementation may be necessary. And as I said, discuss that with your child's doctor. An example might be a milk allergic child who's just not able to get calcium from any other source, because some of the higher calcium foods, you'd have to eat larger quantities to get the calcium you need, and some of them aren't always popular with children. So, you know, we just want to be careful from that aspect. Next slide, please.
So kind of touching base on everything today, the focus is just having fun with your food. One of the things I like to say that's most important is focus on the can-haves rather than the cannot. And, you know, use the foods that you can have, but find fun ways to pack them in new ways and shapes or in different containers, just to make them more aesthetically pleasing. And what I found is it's not only fun for my daughter, but even myself, just going through the mundane lunch packing every day. It makes it fun for me as well. I love doing this for my daughter, but then also she loves getting her food in different ways. And you can keep it simple, or you can get as creative as you want to. Again, you know, there's days that my daughter just gets a sandwich on diagonal with a banana and veggie chips, and that's okay. And then there's other days, you know, we get super creative, like you see here with Mater, and it's fun, and she takes pride and ownership in her lunches and showing them off to her friends around her. So it makes her feel like she's not missing out, and that she has great lunches just like they do. So some of the things that he touched about, the tips when it came to keeping apples from browning. But another one is the question we get is, you know, keeping those pieces in, or like a sandwich like this that's pictured, how do you keep that from becoming a big old mess by lunchtime? And there's a few tricks. One is, you know, packing it tight in the containers. You can kind of see he's pushed in there pretty tightly. But then what I do is I use the nut-free spreads, or even honey, or if it's mayo on a sandwich, a dab of that, and I treat it like glue. So all the little bits and pieces, you dab that in there, and you'd be surprised once that sandwich is chilled and how well they'll stick. So there's little tricks like that to help those little pieces stay in place, so that your kids get a $1 million looking lunch by lunchtime. And some other things to consider is even just how they're carrying it, you know, having a good sturdy lunch bag, whether that holds it flat or just tightly so that it's not getting jumbled up and down by the time they get to lunch. And you can pick up some of these fun pieces you know, from craft stores or dollar item stores, even online from some of the big cups, cutters, and you don't have to spend a lot of money to have a big impact. Little cards that you see in this photo are actually I bought after Easter on clearance. They were little Easter eggs, and Again, just a fun thing to put in the lunchbox and fill with little vegetables and or a little treat or whatever you want to put in there that I bought, for pennies after a holiday. So again, just some ideas to take with you to have some fun in the lunchbox. Next slide, please.
Okay, wow, time's going fast when you're having fun here talking to everybody and looking at all Keeley's great lunches. So I have a lot of 2 slides of additional ideas that are listed, but most of them, like the charts and the calendars involving the family, the children, and planning, cool lunch bags and kits and things like that, we've already addressed, I think, a couple different times. So if we could just skip to the slide for label reading, that would be wonderful. Okay, label reading is extremely important, not only for the allergens, but for the nutrition information and facts as well. There are a lot of funny words out there when we're reading labels, and the Kids with Food Allergies site has all of the different label reading instructions, the milk and other allergen avoidance lists, and it even has some cute little pocket cards you can cut out and print off and cut out and keep with you. Make sure if you're avoiding allergens, you read all sides of the label, because you never know where they might sneak something in, whether it be relative to how it's been processed on shared machinery or whatever. If there's no ingredient label and your child has food allergies, I would not take a chance. If there's an 800 number, you can always check and contact the manufacturer with any questions, or if there's something that you're not even sure what the ingredient is. And most of them now, they're so in tune to people calling with allergy questions and concern about ingredients. Most of them are very happy to answer your questions. Next slide, please. And we just have, the top 8 allergens there that, we want to do the label reading for, and we have guides for all of those on the Kids with Food Allergies site. Next slide, please. And then keeping food safe is very important, using ice packs, insulated or freezable lunch coolers, thermos. Keeley talked about how to heat the thermos ahead of time while you're heating food. You can freeze things so that they stay chilled and they're thawed by lunchtime. But when we're talking about safe food, typically in the food service world, which I work in as well, we like to keep cold foods at 41 degrees or below, and hot foods at 135 or higher. And so, sometimes it's good to have a thermometer at home to check your food temperatures when you're packing the lunches if you have time, because in the food service world, we consider anything in between 41 and 135 for too long can put food in the danger zone. So if you like to do science experiments with your children at home, you can chill a food or heat a food to the proper temperature and then see how long it takes for it to get out of that temperature range. Next slide, please. And when we're choosing a container, we want to consider the durability and the materials, the overall size and compartments, cleaning care, quantity, and price. Is it easy to open for the children? Nothing more embarrassing than a container that leaks. And certainly, children tend to lose things, forget to bring things home. So you need multiple containers in your house, and you can easily find them at lots of stores around, whether they're the dollar stores or a place like Target or otherwise. And I think that is the last slide. And okay, we have some questions. Keeley, do you want to answer the question, or do you want me to?
Yep, and I was just going to say, the question is, what are some good ideas for families who need lunches that are free from the top 8 allergens? And I think some of them kind of on your already. They have to have reference. That's an awesome one to check out. Otherwise, as I said before, making allergy-free pancakes or muffins. I personally have been using the new Enjoy Life mixes. They're top 8 free, and you can use those for lunch. You can fill those muffins with fruits and different proteins just to try and beef them up a little bit so it's not just a bready muffin. And again, you use your pancakes like a sandwich, fill them with something your child can have. And then also, once you love homemade along that nature, just to try and beef up the nutrition in those lunches. And again, as Deb mentioned too, there's so many great substitutes on the market now, and really great blogs and resources out there now too with recipes and ideas. And I would just encourage you to research and get some ideas even from a site like Pinterest and things like that to sort of fit those needs for your allergies. Next question.
What are some ideas for fruit and vegetables for a child with oral allergy syndrome? Gets tired of applesauce, grapes, and raisins. Well, typically with oral allergy syndrome, it's limited to a lot of fruits with typically pits most of the time, or some that are cross-reactive with those. But in my experience with people with oral allergy syndrome, it's the fresh fruits that they tend to react to. But if something's processed, just like the applesauce instead of apples, then many people can tolerate them. I would definitely avoid the specifics, but there again, there are more fruits that cause the oral allergy syndrome than vegetables, so you might have to bump up your vegetables and limit the fruits. Hopefully that helps.
What are some sources of protein that do not need to be kept cold or refrigerated? I think a lot of times people dwell on being the only source of protein or nuts. And there are some really great sources of protein out there that don't include those. I mean, obviously you can do things like nut-free spreads, like a sunflower seed spread. That's a great source of protein. But even things like roasted chickpeas, your leafy greens are excellent sources of protein. Spinach, broccoli, kale, even cauliflower, and Deb had mentioned earlier packing rice and even quinoa, those are great protein sources. And if your family can tolerate green peas are an excellent source of protein, and you can turn those even into spreads or hummus by utilizing those in different ways and packing those for lunch. And so just keep that in mind, and I would just encourage you, if that's an issue for someone's family, do a little bit of research online, even looking into vegan ideas. And maybe you can't have everything, but it might just help you think outside the box a little bit on other sources of protein that you might be able to include in your child's lunch boxes.
And just like some vegans do combine grains and protein sources, but quinoa can be used in a variety of different ways, and it's one of your grains that's the highest source of protein. And so, that's good to use and incorporate, and it's good to get families to try that. One of my favorite things to do is take quinoa and cook it and add sliced apples to it and then bake it. And add some cinnamon and some other kind of the fall spices to it. So the other thing I wanted to mention, I know we have a lot of questions here, but last fall we also did a webinar on lunches with Dale Hayes, who's another dietitian colleague of mine, and her website is Nutrition for the Future, and she goes around to school districts, and her program is called School Meals That Rock. And if you can go on her site, she has so many creative ideas of making little animals out of fruits and vegetables and doing some of the things similar to what Keeley has done with some of her lunches. So, it's worth checking Dale's site out as well.
Okay, this is a great question. My daughter is peanut-free as well, and the question is, my daughter eats at a peanut-free table, and some of the peanut-free substitutes look just like peanut butter. How do I let staff know that what I'm packing is safe? That's a great question, and even a lot of them smell like peanut butter. So many of the companies that make those nut-free spreads offer little stickers or printables right on their websites. I know Some Better, which is one of KFA's sponsors, they have printables right on their website that says this is safe and this is what you've packed. Some of the other ones that are out there, Wild Butter, for instance, has stickers that are under the label of each jar, so you can put that right on the lunch, and that kind of lets the staff know that that's the brand that you're using and that it is safe. Otherwise, just write a note. I know I've done that many times. Just because I remember when my daughter was younger, I was scared. I was like, I hope they think that they realize I'm not putting peanuts in my daughter's lunch. And you can just even send a note like, this is Some Better, this is safe, it's okay. Or this is whatever nut-free spread I prefer to use. And talk to the teachers ahead of time. You could also just talk to the staff who's at their lunch table or who's manning their lunches and let them know that this is what I'm sending in for my child, and is this brand okay, and I want you to know that this is what we're using.
Do egg-free mayo substitutes need to be kept cold? That one I'd have to look up and get back, unless Keeley's more familiar with that. I haven't looked at more of the...
Yeah, it really depends. I guess the easy answer is yes. Most of the egg-free mayo substitutes do not have preservatives in them, and I'm just going to use this as an example. Like the Veganazes, if they're preservative-free, then they absolutely have to be kept cold. And for good reason, obviously, they have less stuff in them, but that's why they need to be kept cold. So if you're putting that on the sandwich, absolutely keep that chilled.
And some of them are more palatable when cold anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Is it okay to pack calcium-fortified orange juice for my daughter if she is allergic to milk? Definitely, if that's, what she wants to have as a drink, and that's one way that you're able to get her calcium into her, that's fine. Mm-hmm. And we really didn't talk too much about beverages with the lunches, but that's something that whatever your child likes. Certainly water is great too, and you can get little bottles of water, but I would definitely, if that's what she likes and that's a good way of getting her calcium, and I would definitely do it.
And you can freeze the orange juice as well, just to, if you freeze it overnight and in the morning pack, it serves as an ice pack for your lunch and keeps it chilled so that by lunchtime it's also good to drink.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and say that's going to be the last question for now. Deb, I have one really quick question for you. Somebody gave us a really great question that typed it in a few minutes ago. Do you have any suggestions for omega-3 fatty acids that are not derived from fish?
There are some out there, but I can't think of the name brand off the top of my head, but I can reach out to my colleagues and we can post that as an answer on the site.
Okay, that's great. Yeah. So thank you so much for your creative ideas and nutrition information. It's always just so important to have this so we feel more confident as parents. So I'm very grateful that both of you joined us here today. And so I'm just going to go ahead and wrap up. We're getting close to 2 o'clock, and so that's when I talk fast and try to summarize quickly. But for those of you who are still here, we have a Watch and Win giveaway. The winners of the 2 Sun Butter giveaways are Alicia Basson and Carola Hannett. The winners of the Applegate giveaways are Kim Cameron and Patsy Hogan. And congratulations to Rosalind Posick, who won Amber DeVore's children's book, My Food Allergies. It's a cute little book, and I hope you enjoy it. So let's see. So we already did the questions and answers, and so what I'm going to do is just have you look through what's being posted up there. Make sure you take advantage of the information on KFA's blog. In the past week, we've posted peanut-free lunch ideas, milk-free lunch ideas, egg-free lunch ideas, and I think yesterday we did gluten-free, wheat-free lunch ideas. So take advantage of everything we offer, which is free. And also we have a wonderful recipe database that you can search by the allergens you need to avoid. You can also log into our support forums where you have amazing people who can help convert recipes, offer substitutes, create miracles for you in a lot of ways. And so in any case, I'm going to thank Keeley. Here's Keeley's blog address. You can check out her really cute blog. It has recipes, lunch ideas. If you're looking for lunchbox ideas and where to find them and stuff, you can check out her blog. She has lots of ideas there for you. And then in closing, I want to give you an important message about anaphylaxis. You know, we're talking about food all day, and of course we're always talking about avoidance plans. So make sure you're prepared for anaphylaxis, that you know your emergency plans, that you check your epinephrine auto-injectors, make sure they're not expired, replace them if necessary, send 2 with your child every time they go somewhere. And to learn more about anaphylaxis and how to manage it, we have an easy-to-read handout called Anaphylaxis Severe Allergic Reactions that's on our website. We'll be recording this, and we'll be posting it on our blog and sending you an email about it in a few days. Our next webinar is Dr. Dave Sukas. He's a really awesome presenter, and he's going to go through popular food allergy myths and facts. So I hope you join us on Thursday, October 8th. He's a really great speaker, and you'll be sure to learn something new and have fun learning at the same time. Want to tell you also on our blog we have information about peeled pumpkins and how to keep it peeled this weekend, and to spread the message about people having the option of offering non-food treats to children who may come to their homes with special diets. You can download free items on our website, printables, all kinds of things. Just check it out. There's even a little school kit you can take to your school. And in closing, it's 2:02. I'm sorry we're just a little bit late, but I want to thank you for joining us here today. Kids with Food Allergies is a nonprofit charity. We're a division of the Asthma and Allergy Foundation of America, so please be sure to keep us in your charitable giving plans as you approach the end of the year. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye.